his administration. Lanny Davis was the White House special counsel for President Clinton and joins me now. Lanny, you're the perfect guy to ask about all this because, apart from anything else, you're a good friend of Eric Holder, have been for 20 years. And when you were with President Clinton, I mean, he famously operated this executive privilege many times, more than any modern president, 14 times. What is your view of this? How serious is it for Eric Holder? How justified is the criticism?
Well, first of all, this is an historical battle within the Constitution, going back to Andrew Jackson, who defied Congress and said, you passed the law, now you execute it. Congress and the White House, over the years, Democratic and Republican presidents have fought over executive privilege. George Bush resisted turning over documents during the firing of the U.S. attorneys on grounds of executive privilege. President Clinton did so many times because he was slapped with more subpoenas by Newt Gingrich than any other president. So
but what does it actually mean? For those who are hearing this phrase, and like me, who aren't completely up to speed on the minutiae of the detail, it just sounds murky. It sounds they've got something to hide. Why wouldn't they be just coming out with it otherwise? So
the constitutional principle versus the political reality. The constitutional principle is, I work for the President of the United States and I want to give him advice. I don't give advice if I know that if I put it in writing, someone in Congress can hold a press conference about it. I'm going to guard my advice. Same thing as a staff member or member of Congress. If the president asked for it, they would assert the same.
Right.
So that's what it's about, confidentiality and the ability to get candid advice. Having said that, in the political arena, it looks like a cover-up. So what Eric Holder did, and full disclosure, he has been a friend and he's a man of absolute integrity. He went to the chairman, Issa, and said, let's sit down, let's go through these documents, let me show you why this needs to be protected, having nothing to do with your inquiry of what went wrong in this tragic, misguided, fast and furious operation that began under the Bush administration, this stupid technique. And he wanted to work it out, and for some reason, and I think it's all politics, Chairman Issa didn't work it out, and that's why the contempt citation is really over the top as far as I'm concerned.
What do you think will happen?
I think that the House will not vote contempt. If they do, a party line vote will simply reinforce exactly why today I'm organizing a company with Michael Steele to get past this food fight, hyper-partisanship that the American people are sick of, because a party line vote on contempt will take the 9% approval rating of Congress down to 3%. We'll be left with family and staff members who approve Congress.
Yeah, I mean, you've written this great piece today.
Thank you.
To Obama, Romney, stop negativity. Ironically, I've just had Frank Rich on the show saying the opposite. He says that actually all the negative campaigning should be ramped up to an extreme scale on both sides, because actually that's the way you get to what they really stand for. They pulverize each other like great champion boxers, and in the last few rounds, you find out what they're really made of.
Well, first of all, it's easy for Frank to say that sitting in the stadium in the Roman Colosseum watching the gladiators kill each other, and it's gory and it's fun. But I don't think Frank Rich means that distortion and lies are good for American politics. Michael Steele, former chairman of the RNC, Republican National Committee, criticizes Mitt Romney for taking a Barack Obama statement that he doesn't know anything about the economy when he was referring to John McCain, taking it out of context, and then Mitt Romney says, well, if it was out of context, what's sauce for the goose?
To be fair to Frank, I don't think he likes the negative ads. What he was saying was, instinctively, he doesn't think they're a good thing per se. What he believes is that Mitt Romney, as he's shown from the Republican race, is going to throw the negative kitchen sink at Barack Obama, so he has to fight fire with fire. And if you're going to get into that game, you may as well pulverize him with the maximum negativity.
So here's the quick answer. I completely agree that that's a reality that Frank is describing. But the answer is to debate issues and give people a debate choice on issues about solving problems. The company we organized is Purple Nation Solutions, and that, to me, is what Frank would agree with. We can get them to debate Obama and Romney on what are we going to do about the national debt, why hasn't Barack Obama endorsed Simpson-Bowles, which would take care of an across-the-board approach, what is Romney going to do about the debt if he won't raise any revenues? Let's hear that debate, and that's negativity, but it's negativity contrasting ideas. That's what we think ought to happen.
Can a presidential candidate win through positivity alone?
Well, it isn't necessarily, the answer is yes, but contrasting I think Barack Obama's ideas are better than Mitt Romney's. I think he's got a better approach on national health care. I want to know how Romney is going to take care of 33 million uninsured people if the Supreme Court overturns this law. People want to know answers. So there's negativity, but it's negativity about issues. It's not personal attacks. Cory Booker tried to say that, and you know who condemned him worse than anybody? This administration actually said he's dead to us when Cory Booker said more positive on that particular program about Barack Obama than he said negative. All he said was he didn't like the personal attacks on both sides, and his own fellow Democrats, fellow Obama supporters, criticized him.
Wasn't Cory Booker a bit naive then? I like him very much, but wasn't he naive that if he was going to oppose the Bain line of attack, that is a central plank of Barack Obama's attack on Mitt Romney, isn't it? He's basically saying the guy, if you judge him on the economy through his record at Bain, he's going to destroy jobs. That was why they got so touchy about it.
I actually was surprised at their reaction, because if you read the transcript, it was almost all positive about Barack Obama. Does a friend say to a friend, what you're doing, which I think is wrong, you should keep doing if he wants to get him reelected? And yet that was the effect of saying he's dead to us. In fact, Harold Ford Jr., a congressman from Tennessee, supporter of Barack Obama's, Governor Ed Rendell of Pennsylvania, myself, all thought the Bain attack isn't going to help you, Barack Obama. Tell your story why your health care plan is good for the American people. That will reelect you, not a distorted ad about Bain.
Let's take a short break, Lenny. I want to change gears a bit and move to the Jerry Sandusky trial. You've worked a lot with Penn State, and therefore we'll have some pretty interesting views, I'd imagine, about what's been going on this week. Tom Klein, the attorney for the alleged victim number 5 in the trial of Jerry Sandusky. Today, the defence rested his case, and tomorrow, closing arguments begin. Back with me now is Lanny Davis, who's currently a legal advisor to the president of Penn State. So you're directly involved here. You're a top lawyer. You've been a White House counsel. You're a crisis management expert. All of these skills are pretty seriously tested in this case, because on the face of it, it's pretty grim for Penn State, isn't it?
Well, first let me say I have to be very limited in what I can say to you about this, Piers. First, a man is in a trial, and he's entitled to the presumption of innocence, and the jury's going to decide Mr. Sandusky's fate. Mm-hmm. I can tell you that in working for Penn State, now the president, I went to Yale, and I loved Yale as a great university. I've never seen an alumni, a student body, a faculty that loves a place more than I've seen in the Penn State family. And I know one thing, that they should not be judged or identified with this particular tragedy. If it turns out he's guilty, may he go to jail for a long time. This great university should not be defined by this tragedy.
Isn't the problem for Penn State that when you have such an iconic character, as Joe Paterno, for example, wielding such power through just his years of experience, decades of experience, that if it turns out that Sandusky is guilty and he gets weighed off for a long time, and it's sort of confirmed again that Joe Paterno knew and others knew, that brings shame to Penn State, doesn't it? Just as an institution, that more young boys were allowed to be abused simply because those in positions of authority, for whatever reason, didn't do anything.
Look, just to be clear, to protect myself, I didn't know we would be talking about this subject tonight. And I can only say that Joe Paterno was a great man and passed away. And he did admit to a grand jury that he knew that there was conduct of a sexual nature from someone who told him. And he reported that fact to his superior. And we can judge that decision or not. But I still say that things happen in big institutions, and they shouldn't be judged by the aberration. If Mr. Sandusky is convicted, he does not reflect Penn State as I've come to know it and love it. He is an aberration. He doesn't reflect humanity if he is convicted doing these awful things, if he is convicted.
Do you feel optimistic that whatever happens, that every other version of Penn State in America that has sporting, athletic, great sports teams, athletic coaches and so on, and academic institutions, that they will at the very least now be more transparent than they may have been because of what happened there? Do you think that there's been a seismic shock to the whole system in this country?
Well, without focusing on just higher education, I think a good part of government's problem is an absence of transparency. A good part of what happens in Congress behind closed doors is an absence of transparency. I work for a company and did some lobbying for this company, and I said to the client, when we walk into a member's door, we are on C-SPAN. And that idea of transparency, which I believe is an across-the-board problem in America, is, I think, a big solution, even in the world of campaigns, where you have these huge super PACs without transparency as to who's giving the money and paying for these negative attack ads, which I'm going to shamelessly plug. Michael Steele and I, in our company, Purple Nation Solutions, are trying to engage in a new type of politics where we're looking at solutions to problems, not food fights.
Lanny, I wish you all the very best.
I brought it back to my company.
You did, very skillfully. You can now see why you've held down all these great jobs.
Thank you.
Good to see you, as always.
Thank you.